So where do we start? Do we start with Danielle Smith having an outright war with Ontario before these Trump tariffs come in on Monday, January 20th? Or do we start with the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun who's having a hard time keeping these alligators down, who wishes he had the charisma of Nature Boy Ric Flair? Woo! Mark Carney announcing his bid for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. You gotta keep it light. It's a feel-good Friday, y'all. Things are crazy, but we gotta keep it light. You know what I'm saying? I think what we'll do is we will start with the craziness that's going on, the updated craziness, I should say, of Danielle Smith in Ontario. And then I think it siphons itself very well into this Mark Carney announcement that people are just goo goo gaga. Oh my gosh. The Conservatives are laughing at him. The Liberals are praising him. And no one really knows if you're in between as a moderate what the heck is going on. So we'll start there. Team Canada wants to be able to counter tariff Alberta oil and gas. They want to use all the tools at their disposal to pull some levers and tell Trump to get lost and prove a point. Danielle Smith said no. And me and Reg talked about this yesterday. The issue with that is because Danielle Smith is, I don't know, smart and realizes we can't really tariff oil and gas and actually seek to win that battle. We will lose every time. If you look at the logistics of what the trade is like between the countries and where our pipelines actually go, it's a bad idea. We'll get smoked every day. She said if we had our pipelines that went to Energy East and we had pipelines that went out to the coast in the west and went up north, this would be a different conversation. But right now, as it is, those pipelines were killed and we are dealing with what we're dealing with. So it's not a smart idea. So I will not sign the joint statement with all the premiers of placing tariffs on Alberta oil and gas. Not going to happen. Don't agree. And if that wasn't Satan herself, you would think by looking at everyone's reaction to her decision, doing what's best for Alberta. You don't care about Canada. Rip off that red and white. You just want to kiss Trump's ASS. Yeah, exactly. They sound like a bunch of immature schoolgirls is what they do sound like. Because we have Justin Trudeau doing what Justin Trudeau does best and dividing Canadians and trying to pit them against each other to be able to get his control. You know, the empire strikes back, doesn't it? Trudeau calls on Poilievre to say if he stands with Canada or Danielle Smith and Donald Trump. You're virtually calling her an American. And Trudeau was asking that and putting a lot of pressure on Poilievre, and as well as trying to demonize Danielle Smith in Alberta like he's done his whole time as prime minister. This stuff sucks. I hate seeing this stuff. It's discouraging. Not fun to look at. And the problem is, and this is how most people operate, and that's how, I'll be honest, I'll be straight with you. I operate this way too. If you see the majority of people who agree on one thing, the bias naturally is that, okay, the group is usually right. And so anyone who's not paying attention to politics sees that all the premiers agree with this. All the political pundits on the outside are agreeing with this. And there's very, very few people, such as myself, Danielle Smith, and the people in her circle and people in Alberta who agree with Danielle Smith on this. And we are very much in the minority on this. This one spans political lines and political stripes. If you agree with Danielle Smith on this, you are un-Canadian. You may as well be American. Go side with Donald Trump. And I'm like, y'all are emotional. Y'all are emotional. Cry about it some more, why don't you? And sorry, I will always be on the side of reason and logic and not on the side of whatever Doug Ford wants to do, like he says in this video.
When it comes to potential stimulus from the federal government, from the provincial government, how far along are you with discussions on this topic where, you know, if, God forbid, these tariffs do come through and we do need to stimulate the economy, what kind of magnitude are we looking at there?
It's billions. So we had that conversation around the table yesterday with the federal government, the two ministers, Minister LeBlanc and Minister Jolie, and the ambassador was there too. And they've agreed that we need to put some money into the economy. God forbid, the tariffs continue for a long period of time. It's no different than really the pandemic. We may have to put tens of billions of dollars.
Oh my gosh. Dougie. We're going to do what we did like in the pandemic. Put tens of billions of dollars in the economy to stimulate it. Because that went so well the first time. Dougie. It's a feel-good Friday, baby. But when you see stuff like this, you lose hope and you start losing trust in the side that is the majority at the moment, or at least the perceived majority. And Danielle Smith says, I cannot get on board with this, guys. This is not a good idea. Secure the border. Let's take care of that. We literally can't get in a tariff war on this. We've handicapped ourselves over the past 9 years. We can't do it. We just can't. I know I'm a broken record, I feel like, on this. I am. It's just, I think it's common sense. Why are we trying to fight these guys when all we need to do is come to the table with a deal? Just a deal. But the problem is, as I said, Danielle Smith is very much in the minority on this. After what I saw spreading throughout social media, I just grabbed a handful of tweets, but there's many, many, many more that are like it. And I was admittedly shocked. Corey Morgan, columnist for the Western Standard, retweets a message that says, Alberta's not a team player, never were. That's probably why the rest of Canada hates Alberta. And he retweeted that tweet and he added his commentary saying, Canada should teach Alberta a lesson and kick it out of the Federation. This is a guy who works in our media for the Western Standard, typically seen as a right-leaning paper, saying Alberta should be kicked out of Federation. Alberta Labor Today, all 396 followers, but still, these are sentiments that are being put out. Traders do not know how to shake hands. She doesn't belong on Team Canada. She doesn't belong in Canada. She's a traitor. Danielle Smith, obviously that infamous photo of her just kind of staring at Justin Trudeau. Or this, from Roland Paris, who's a prof from U Ottawa. Surprise, surprise. Trump has found his weak link in Canada. He didn't need to look far. She delivered herself right to him. I'm dumbfounded by the reaction. Dumbfounded. I'll be straight with you on this. You people are absolute morons. I can't believe the rhetoric you're spewing. It's quite frankly disgusting. She's not crazy for taking the stance. It's not like she's like, no, screw you guys. I'm doing my own thing. She tried to reason with you. She's tried to reason with Trump. She's tried to tell you what's going on and try to show you what's going to happen down the road if you don't do X, Y, and Z things. You didn't listen 10 years ago. Clearly not listening now. Like my friends, we are on the precipice of a national unity issue here in Canada. That's what we're witnessing. Even the perceived frontrunner for the Liberal Party, in his speech yesterday, as he announced his intention to run for leadership of the Liberal Party, couldn't help but take a shot at Danielle Smith.
Let me tell you one other thing. In these times, sending Pierre Poilievre to negotiate with Donald Trump is the worst possible idea. I can think of one other politician I might not send. It just came to me in the last 24 hours.
The unity candidate, his pompous arrogance, look on his face as he makes that comment. So proud of himself for it too. Keep dumping on her. There's a tweet I saw, and there's going to be one of two results that's going to come from this. Danielle Smith is going to be viewed as the biggest sellout in all of this, or she's going to be viewed as the most based. And we'll find out. We'll find out the abuse that she takes, if it was warranted or not. And quite frankly, after we saw what happened in the pandemic and those who took a stand for constituents, those who took a stand for what was right, those who took a stand against the tyranny that happened in this country, you ended up being right. And I have a feeling Danielle Smith will be sitting pretty at the end of all this too. She's feeling a lot of pain now, and I feel for her. But I have a feeling that she'll be proven right at the end of all this too. And I hope the country doesn't fully get totally wrecked in the process. But the stuff we're seeing with Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau, people in the media, it's very emblematic of how the East has viewed Alberta for decades. We use Alberta as a piggy bank and then crap on them all the other times because they don't know any better. They're stupid, just right-wing crazies. And this Liberal Party has created a unity crisis that I haven't seen in my lifetime. The elevated levels we're hearing from Quebec wanting to separate from Canada, I think is probably the most we've heard since the referendum days. We have three terrorist groups operating here on Canadian soil, just being allowed to do what they do. We have Chinese police stations operating throughout the country, just being allowed to do that, operated by communist China. We have Alberta now, not saying it's coming from the government, saying it's coming from pockets of groups in Alberta, or the rhetoric is beginning to rise. Should Alberta secede from Canada? I have proof for you right here. Nadine Ness, running an X space as we speak, says, why should Alberta stay in Canada with 279 people in it at the moment as we speak? This is the Canada the Liberals have delivered us. This is the Canada they want us to have. I was going to take some time to go over the Mark Carney announcement, and I'll share a little bit about it. But I'm realizing now, as I'm speaking to you, it's not as worth the time as I thought it was. Because as I'm talking, as I'm seeing and reflecting in real time with you right now, I'm realizing it doesn't matter. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to watch Mark Carney do his thing. It's fun to see what Freeland ends up doing here in the future. We'll find out today. We'll find out Monday, maybe over the weekend, what she plans on doing. But it quite frankly doesn't matter because they all do the same things. And I truly believe, given enough time, we'll be able to expose all of them, if not already, for the corrupt individuals they are. Mark Carney can put on a face and say that he is a centrist. As he says here, we can't operate the same way the far left wants us to. We can't just redistribute wealth that we don't have. We have to stabilize our economy. Those are his words. And he went as far as to even throw Trudeau under the bus in his speech.
I know I'm not the only Liberal in Canada who believes that the Prime Minister and his team let their attention wander from the economy too often. I won't lose focus.
They lost focus of the economy. I'll be the one who brings it back. I'll be the one who brings in CBDCs. I'll be the one who brings in social credit. I'll be the one who brings us into the quote-unquote future that billionaire interests would love us to have. This guy is Trudeau, but worse. And I'm looking forward to it. There is fun times to be talked about with this stuff, though. Conservatives really are, from what I'm seeing on social media, thought this was the biggest joke of an announcement. Didn't really take it seriously. Thought it was like, meh, kind of bland, kind of sad. But then I'm reading liberals who are just like, salivating over it. Think it's the best thing ever. I get it. They've had a terrible leader for a long time and they've known it. They've just had to act like he was the best. We've seen that with Mark Garrettson's tweets recently. But people are now starting to favor Chrystia Freeland over him more after his announcement. It's crazy what a week can do. The start of the week, he goes on the Daily Show. Chrystia, don't even bother announcing. You're done. He comes in, announces on a Thursday. Reddick swiftly switches to Chrystia could actually win this. He's not looking that great. Man, media and people are fickle, I'll tell you. Oh my gosh. But one last warning about Mark Carney, which is fun. It comes from Stephen LeDrew. He used to be the president of the Liberal Party of Canada for about 5 years in the early 2000s. And this is coming from him. This is interesting. Carney is a wickedly dangerous man, hoping to curtail individual freedom in order to achieve his view of what the world needs. He makes the World Economic Forum look like libertarians. Independent social media will expose his goals through examination of his own writings. Debate, not dictate. And that, my friend, I couldn't agree with you more, Stephen. What is likely to happen, what we're seeing, especially what we saw with Jagmeet's letter that he issued on Wednesday, where he hinted at the idea that he might, when Parliament comes off a prorogue, that he won't issue a vote of no confidence. He's hinting at it. And I can imagine, regardless it's Freeland or Carney who gets in, they're going to try and maximize the amount of time possible so that they have as much time runway to be able to try and garner a base to run the next election. So it could get pushed to October. We'll see. I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised either from what I'm seeing. But this is Mark Carney. This is who you get. And when someone who used to be the president of the Liberal Party of Canada is saying, this man is dangerous, and acknowledges the World Economic Forum and what they're about and why they're dangerous. Hey, liberals, start paying attention. It's not just the crazy right-wing conservatives that you've pushed all of us into, those who are centrists, or at least were at a different time in history. Just trying to tell you, you hate the billionaires so much. You hate income inequality so much. Yet you keep blindly not realizing, and in a lot of cases, naively supporting the biggest billionaire class of them all. In the same speech, Mark Carney rips Poilievre for going after the support of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, which he has not done. But again, another lie. Surprise, surprise. We have old Mikey Bloomberg, American billionaire Mikey Bloomberg, saying, I'm excited to see my friend Mark Carney run for Prime Minister of Canada. Hey, I thought the liberals thought you hated billionaires. I thought you hated income inequality. If you hate Elon Musk so much, I imagine you were going to direct the same amount of hate towards someone like Mike Bloomberg. Would you ever accuse Mark Carney of cozying up to American interests? Would you? It's a legitimate question. That's what I had to ask. But nothing sums up more of what LeDrew was talking about than what happened at Mark Carney's announcement yesterday. Keean Beck's saying the Mark Carney campaign has blockaded access to journalists after we showed him the invitation we received last night. We're now locked in the foyer, and some guy just exclaimed that they called the police on 7 journalists who are extremely confused. He kept out Keean Beck's essentially independent journalists, Western Standard, out of his event, saying not allowed. We're going to let these journalists in. We're not going to let these journalists in. And I was wondering why, but then I saw how he reacted. Look at his facial expressions when one journalist just sort of pushed back on him. A concern that most Canadians legitimately have about him.
For taking our questions. You're a senior executive at Brookfield, and yet your compensation has not been disclosed. Can you tell us what your compensation over the past 3 years has been and how you will manage potential conflicts of interest as you enter politics?
Okay, very simple. I'm no longer a senior executive at Brookfield. I am no longer a senior executive at Bloomberg. I am no longer on the board of Stripe. I am no longer on the board of PIMCO. I am no longer on the board of any of my commercial activities. I am no longer the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. So all of those roles, I resigned today.
I resigned all of those roles today. This guy's ridiculous. When she was asking that question, he just rolled his eyes, scoffs at her, as though it's a stupid question. Look at how he treated Danielle Smith and Pierre Poilievre in that speech. Look at how he treated this reporter. He hates regular people. He thinks we're stupid. Thinks we're dumb. And I, for one, will be watching this Liberal leadership race very closely, seeing if Freeland finally announces that she's joining. Because if what we're seeing on social media is accurate, I think the Liberal leadership race is getting mighty interesting. Last but not least, couple fun shout outs of today's speech. Carney stole his logo from an actual credit collection agency. Funny. Called Poilievre's ideas dangerous, and then admitted to being, wrong on, everything.
A stagnant economy. Our wages feel like they are frozen, but costs keep escalating. We face a fractured political divide that has pitted Canadians versus Canadians.
Yeah, so pretty much just called out everything the Liberals have done. But apparently they have the solution. Yep, got it. Sounds good. And last but not least, two last things here. Just so that was funny. Jennifer L. calls out this one piece in her TikTok today, which I didn't catch it when I first watched the announcement. Dang, this was hilarious.
And then an elder got up to do a prayer for him, and then she said this.
And also, I would like to say a special prayer for Mr. Carney, because he's going to need prayers to be strong. I just met him today. I have never met him, but
And honestly, that's...
Get out of here, man. Like, what are we doing? Oh my gosh. Get real for 2 seconds, please. We have to get the Indigenous elder up there to do a prayer for Carney. Gets up there. We're going to give a nice prayer for Carney here. And never met him before. Actually, I don't know who he is. It's like, yo. God bless. That's wild. And I want to finish off with one last feel-good Friday moment from our boy, Ron Butler, calling out the stupidity of Freeland and Carney, saying, we don't support the carbon tax anymore, at least the consumer side of it.
Well, I'm shocked. Krista Freeland and Mark Carney both woke up this morning and realized they always hated the carbon tax. Always. They were always against it. Carney and Freeland were always against the carbon tax. Guess Justin made them like it. I don't know. And now they hate it. It's garbage. Gotta go. Carbon tax has to go. Like, what's going to happen next? Is Greta Thunberg going to jump out from behind a rock and say, drill, baby, drill? I mean, like, please, come on. This is all so crazy. People who love the carbon tax for a decade, loved it.
Yeah, like, is Greta Thunberg going to show up and say, drill, baby, drill? That just shows you how all this is a scheme to make Canadians poorer. But you got to laugh through the pain, enjoy the ride as it goes, as we fight back against all of this nonsense. Enjoy your Friday. I'll see you later. Have a good one. I'm out.